Hi, this is attorney Charles M. Green. I am a certified family law specialist in Los Angeles County, and what I specialize in is complex divorce litigation. And today, this video is going to discuss family law litigation and the high net worth individual or the high net worth couple and divorce. The high net worth divorce is distinctly different than a basic divorce because there are many case laws and statutes in the family code that need to be applied to financial situations for a family law case that is in the high net worth arena to go to trial or to be properly mediated and settled. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about divorce and forensic accounting for the high net worth individual. This is uniquely different than the regular divorce in that most divorces do not require a forensic accountant. Okay. A basic divorce may require a forensic accountant for the family home. And I'll quickly discuss that because it could also be the situation for the high net worth individual. There is a case law in the family law litigation world called Marsden. And there's a series of cases that followed it. Those cases basically talk about if someone had a house before marriage and then they got married, does that house, that separate property house that's titled in one individual's name, does that house develop a community interest? Community interest means that it would belong to the marital community, to both partners of the marriage, whereas separate property would mean it's one person's separate property. So what we have here in the Marsden case is a separate property house, a house where the title is recorded at the county recorder's office in one person's name, and they had that house before marriage. But then during the marriage, the community funds were used to pay the mortgage. Now, earnings, your salary while you're working, most of the time that is community funds, whether you like that or not, and a lot of people don't like that. But when you go to work during the marriage, that money belongs to the community. Your labor belongs to the community, generally, to the marriage. So if you take your salary during the marriage, pay the mortgage, you're creating what's called a Marsden interest. Another way to create a community interest during a marriage, in conjunction with a Marsden, okay, would be if you refinance the house during the marriage. Because, simply stated, when you got married, that loan on your house, that mortgage, was in your name alone and on your credit. When you're married, your credit worthiness belongs to the marriage, and any loan you take out is subject to creating a community liability, not just your separate property liability in many circumstances, especially since this refinancing of a house you had before marriage is replacing at times a purchase money mortgage, which would have had certain safeguards if there was a default or whatnot. Okay, when you refinance, especially during the marriage, and you're refinancing a purchase money mortgage or a loan that already replaced a purchase money mortgage, okay, you are now creating a community carve-out, a Marsden type carve-out in your separate property home, a community interest. All right. So these things are legal principles. But how do we take these legal principles, like a Marsden, um, uh, and many other types of cases, okay, and turn them into the real numbers of your divorce, okay? And that would be the situation in many of the high net worth couple divorces. We have to employ, in many cases, a specialized type of forensic accountant, okay? A litigation support accountant that specializes in interpreting case law and statutes in the family code or other related laws and using those as a filter to put your financial situation through and decide what it is your separate property and what is your community property. And this can be very tricky, like in a Marsden, when you're talking about an asset you had before marriage. But in many instances, there is a carve out of a community interest in a separate property asset that you had before marriage.